Right now, the National Weather Desk, powerful winds and damaging hail leave a mark across multiple states.
Over 200 homes were damaged from the hailstorm, along with cars and apartments.
As the threat of more dangerous weather continues today, some places are still cleaning up from storms that hit more than a week ago.
We had a pile as large as that truck.
There are now 2 tropical storms spinning in the Pacific, and a third could be on the way. Climate change is leading farmers to rethink how they do business.
All I've got to do is figure out how we're going to survive it on this farm.
The steps you can take to help keep wildfires away from your home.
A natural disaster that is really mitigatable, and there's a lot you can do to reduce the risk.
And what you need to know to catch the strawberry moon glowing in the sky.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Angela Brown. Our busy spring of severe weather continues again this Monday with nearly 40 million people at risk. A large area of the East Coast from New York State to the Gulf Coast is under a level 2 out of 5 risk today. Atlanta, Charlotte, Nashville, and Pittsburgh could see scattered strong to severe thunderstorms today. For now, it appears today could be the busiest day of the week for severe weather. Severe storms last night caused significant damage to our station in Abilene, Texas. The chief meteorologist at KTXS says this was caused by strong winds that blew through last night. No one was hurt, but the station was forced off the air. A Sunday morning hailstorm in the Texas Panhandle damaged hundreds of homes, cars, and apartments. The hail broke car windows and windshields. The mayor issued a disaster declaration.
Had a hailstorm that I think had the most comprehensive damage that I remember as an old timer here in Canyon.
Not far away, winds gusted up to 84 miles per hour with 3-inch hail on the campus of West Texas A&M. Several student dorms were damaged. Further east, the storm brought down trees and power lines in Oklahoma. Ryan Sockett continues our coverage from McAllister.
I was just getting up this morning when I heard it. It sounded like, you know, one of the fighter jets going over you? It just sounded like one of those.
Residents witnessing a powerful storm this morning that swept through McAllister, damaging property including this building in downtown McAllister. Residents tell us it used to be a Catholic Charities building. Matt Ron with the Public Service Company of Oklahoma also tells us the storm caused several outages.
We had about a little over 5,000 customers out in McAllister this morning. So, obviously, as soon as the weather cleared, we had crews responding to those areas, assessing damage, getting things fixed and repaired as quickly and safely as we can.
Ron says they're making progress and they've brought that number down to just under 3,000 customers.
I know the estimated time of restoration in total is tomorrow, Sunday at noon.
Ron asks for patience as they work to recover power in the area, and he asks for people to report down power lines. We also reached out to Pittsburgh County Emergency Management to learn about their storm response efforts. They weren't able to do an interview today, but they sent us a statement that says, in part, McAllister Pittsburgh County Emergency Management is coordinating response efforts and conducting preliminary damage assessments following severe storms that moved through the area early June 7th, 2025, downing power lines and causing widespread outages.
Well, I hate it for the residents of the town, but I mean, you live in Oklahoma. This is part of Oklahoma life.
Also on Saturday, strong winds blew through central Alabama, causing widespread damage. Trees took the biggest hit, with many falling on houses or blocking roads. In one case, a person was trapped inside a home after a tree crashed into it. The person was able to get out safely. Thousands of people lost power, but the lights are back on in most places this morning. Heavy rain Sunday morning caused unusual flash flooding in central Ohio. A local emergency management director said this area is not typically affected by flooding, and several people who had lived there 40, maybe even 50 years said it's the first time they've ever seen this. Water from a local creek overflowed on several roads. The water receded by afternoon and all the roads reopened. Austin, Texas is still cleaning up from a massive storm that struck the region more than a week ago. As Betty Cross reports, it could take until the end of the month to clean and collect all the storm debris.
A week after Austin's supercell thunderstorm.
I have no idea if I can get up there.
Mike Kearns is still pulling broken limbs out of trees.
I had to clean up a lot of just top branches that fell. I had to climb up, cut and clear out a lot.
This is the last of the storm damage. And the high branch is proving to be harder than most to deal with.
We had a pile as large as that truck cut up. Austin Recovery or Resource came and cleaned it all up.
This is what Austin Resource Recovery is facing across central and northwest Austin. Bags of debris and piles of tree limbs are stacked against curbs. There's so much. ARR has 10 crews collecting debris 7 days a week. Cleanup efforts are stretching far beyond people's yards. The Shoal Creek Conservancy is calling in volunteers to remove debris and litter that washed into the creek during the heavy rains.
In all that vegetation, we're seeing a lot of plastic, styrofoam, textiles.
2 mattresses were hauled away, and volunteers know they're nowhere close to getting all the clothes, trash, and other debris out of the creek and off the banks.
Right now, we're having multiple cleanups, one right after another, to help address the fact that it is widespread across the entire watershed.
Tracking the tropics this morning, there are now 2 tropical storms in the eastern Pacific. Let's start with Barbara, which is expected to grow into a hurricane before it quickly weakens back to a tropical storm. Cosme is a weaker storm. It's not expected to reach hurricane strength before it dies out. Neither storm is a threat to land. There's also an area of low pressure that has a 60% chance of becoming Tropical Storm Delilah over the next week. Temperatures are hot in Washington State with a heat advisory in place until 10 p.m. tonight in Seattle. Theron Zahn looks at what these hot temperatures mean for drought in the state and when they might see some relief.
Hot temperatures are sizzling western Washington, drawing out an already drier than typical landscape west of the Cascades. This drought monitor map from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration shows that all of western Washington is currently abnormally dry or under moderate drought conditions, and the numbers show why. According to the University of Washington's Department of Atmospheric and Climate Science, so far this year, the official rain gauge at SeaTac has received almost 14 inches of rain. That's more than 5 inches less than we typically get by this time of year. But just when you thought there was no relief from the heat and dryness, the newest 8 to 14-day forecast from NOAA has some hope. When it comes to temperatures, government forecasters are calling for a 40 to 50% chance of below normal temperatures in the next 2 weeks. As for rainfall, NOAA forecast models are saying you can expect a 40 to 50% chance of above normal precipitation. While that likely won't allow us to catch up on our rainfall, at least it looks like a break from the heat is coming soon.
The UV index is important to know, especially in summer months when too much sun can lead to sunburn or worse. It's on a scale of 1 to 10. Meteorologist Ryan Munn explains how it's calculated.
The UV index is a measure of how strong the ultraviolet radiation from the sun will be on a given day. The UV scale ranges from a 0 up to an 11 or even higher. But what exactly impacts how high or low it'll be? First is how thick the ozone layer is, cloud coverage, and the time of year, so the sun angle. Lastly, latitude and altitude of a location. The UV wavelengths, or in simpler terms, the strength of the sun at the surface, typically ranges from 100 to 400 nanometers. The UV increases 6% for every kilometer of elevation, and then you factor in the cloud coverage. Let's say the strength of the sun was 300 nanometers on a given day. The elevation of this location was 1 kilometer above sea level with 50% cloud coverage. You'd multiply 300 times 1.06 to factor in elevation and multiply that by 0.50 to factor in the cloud coverage. This equals 159. You divide it by 25 and get the number within the UV index range, and that equals 6.3, and then you would round it to the nearest number, so the UV index would be a 6.
There's a zebra in a bag.
A runaway pet zebra was finally captured on Friday, more than a week after escaping from his Tennessee home. Ed was located in a pasture about 40 miles from Nashville. The local sheriff department used a helicopter to fly him to safety. Video of Ed flooded social media during his week on the run. Ed's owner only had him for less than a day before the animal escaped the next morning. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we'll look at how climate change is impacting U.S. chicken farmers, and we'll help you better understand the different types of thunder.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
When you think of climate change, it's possible rising sea levels might be top of mind, but farmers who live inland are noticing another set of differences, and it's affecting the way they operate their farms. Cheriston Clark has more.
Just outside of Walterboro, you'll find Keegan Fillion Farm. It's where Mark Fillion and his wife have been farming since the late 1980s.
We started raising hogs and been raising hogs pretty much ever since. In 2005, we started raising chickens.
But with the changing climate, the Fillion family has had to make changes in the way they raise their chickens.
A couple of years ago, we switched and stopped raising them in the summertime. Now, in the wintertime, we have no problem. But the summertime, the heat and humidity, we'd lose chickens quite a bit. We just now stopped raising chickens after June.
He's also building a new hog house to keep them cool during the hot summer months.
They can spend their time outside. They'll get fed outside. They have water inside. We'll have electricity with fans. And in the summertime, we'll have sprinklers outside, just like we do now. Hogs can't sweat. I'm tired of losing some hogs in the summertime due to the heat.
But it's not just the heat and animals he has to worry about.
We planted our winter grazing first week of October. We raise oats and rye as a combination. Normally we'd be able to graze it by Thanksgiving or the first week of December. The other fields we didn't get to graze until early January, and then the cold weather came in January. It totally stunted the growth. In some areas it killed the grass or the graze.
And by the end of the grazing season, he was only able to graze 3 fields rather than his normal 5.
So what caused it or how we're going to mitigate it, that's not my job. That's somebody else's job. All I've got to do is figure out how we're going to survive it on this farm and what we can do to keep our farm profitable for the future.
Homeowners who live in wildfire-prone areas may often feel powerless against such a destructive natural disaster. But there are precautionary measures people can take to prevent their homes from igniting into flames. Lincoln Graves has more.
According to one estimate, about 100,000 structures, including homes, have been burned by U.S. wildfires in the past 10 years.
It's exciting because it's a natural disaster that is really mitigatable, and there's a lot you can do to reduce the risk.
Connor worked as a wildland firefighter years ago. He and a crew friend, Trevor Searle, saw the need, and their business, Apex Fire Preparedness, was born. Connor focuses on 2 aspects of protecting structures: defensible space and home hardening. Defensible space is all about reducing the amount of vegetation close to a home.
So we replaced everything in the 0 to 5 foot zone with rock.
Home hardening is a bit different, making physical changes to the home. Most trying to guard against embers, an insidious and sinister part of wildfires.
Approximately 90% of homes that burn during wildfires are from embers actually entering the home itself. It's not from flames kind of coming up directly against the structure. So home hardening is everything you can do to reduce the risk of those embers intruding on the home.
Every home has to breathe, with various types of vents in different places on the outside. Flying embers can easily get sucked inside. Connor replaces them with fire-resistant ones.
So there's an intumescent liner in there that if it hits a certain heat threshold, that will fully seal off the vent so no gases or embers could enter the home.
Other parts of home hardening include replacing siding, covering rain gutters, and reconfiguring roof eaves. Connor says any home, anywhere, big or small, can benefit from even the smallest improvement.
It really doesn't discriminate much. As far as who's exposed to wildfire, it's kind of every walk of life in different areas.
Alligator mating season is well underway in Florida. It starts in the spring and lasts until September. For one West Palm Beach resident, one alligator got a little too close to home. Jamilka Gibson has the story.
He was laying right on this big step right here.
It was supposed to be just another peaceful Saturday morning, filled with sunshine and coffee for Jim Voorhees and his wife Karen. But that took a splashing turn when they came face to face with an uninvited guest at their Pinecrest Lakes home. It all started around 8 in the morning when Jim says he heard a strange noise in his backyard. He took a look and didn't see anything. But around 11 a.m., it was a different story.
We saw something in the pool. I thought it was one of the big palm fronds. Sometimes they break off and blow in the pool. Took a little closer look and it was an alligator.
A nearly 7-foot alligator, to be exact, doing more than just catching rays. This big guy was taking a dip in Voorhees' private pool.
I've gotten raccoons out of the pool and armadillos and snakes and frogs and turtles, but I wasn't going to go after an alligator.
Voorhees immediately called the Martin County Sheriff's Office, who called in a gator trapper. But Mr. Gator wasn't going out without a fight, twisting, turning, playing tug of war, and putting up a tense tussle with trappers. In the end, the snappy reptile was wrangled and removed. Voorhees says his yard is fully fenced, making this gator's entrance quite the mystery. Experts suspect it climbed in.
Meteorologist Andrew Buckmichael from our station in Columbus, Ohio, answers viewer questions on social media. It's a segment he calls the Weather Bucket. So let's take a look at what question he is answering this week.
What is up, everyone? Andrew Buckmichael back with another round of your Weather Bucket questions, taking it outside, and I do not need the bucket because we only have one question, and it's this one from Steve asking, what determines if thunder is a low rumble or a crash? Great question. Let's first talk about how lightning is formed. Electrons in thunderstorms start to build up as you get that friction as the storms move across the surface and all of that turbulence within the storm. Eventually, those electrons try to go down to the surface. Protons at the surface try to go back up to the cloud. And when they meet, that's where you get that sudden flash of lightning. Now, there's a bunch of other different types of lightning as well. Inside the thunderstorm, you can get intra-cloud lightning, which is very common. So here are two photos sent in to chime in. The first one here showing this lightning going across the sky, and that is the intra-cloud. Another one from Austin here showing that cloud to ground lightning. These are two very important differences because the cloud to ground lightning is that sudden quick strike. Now the cloud to cloud, that's going to be more of an elongated path throughout the cloud. So the rumble of thunder is going to be that intracloudal because as lightning strikes, superheats the air, then it condenses, and that crash is what we hear. When it's the cloud to ground, it's that single line, and typically it's not very far away from you when you hear that loud crash. You might hear a quick strike if it's a lot farther away, but not quite as loud. So anyways, the difference is if it's going cloud to cloud or that sudden crash, that single bolt right near you, that's when you get that loud crash of thunder. Hopefully that explains it. Thanks to all the questions for the Weather Bucket.
And time now for a short break, but first we take to the skies over New York's Genesee River.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
Climate and weather. Meteorologist Marshall McPeak explains the difference.
Climate deals with long-term averages. That's years, decades, even millennia. Weather, on the other hand, is short-term. Weather's what we get on a day-to-day basis. So days, weeks, even months. But it's also what gives us the extremes.
For more content like this, like the National Weather Desk on Facebook.
June's full moon, known as the Strawberry Moon, will peak in the early morning Wednesday. Meteorologist Teresa Carter explains why it's called the Strawberry Moon and when and how you can get the best view.
June's Strawberry Moon will be the last full moon of spring and the first full moon of the official summer season, named by indigenous tribes to mark the perfect ripening of the season's strawberries. Despite its name, you shouldn't expect to see the moon to visually look pink or red in color. This full moon will appear large and low on the horizon. Now, the best time to see the full moon will be Tuesday, June 10th evening when it rises during dusk. And don't forget to send us your photos via Chime In.
To submit photos, just go to this station's website and click Chime In to share. We'll be right back.